Graham, HDR. We have Dynamic Risk. We have ADCO. So please go visit our sponsors. They're all sitting on their offices. You can go visit them. So this session is between Claudia and Andrea. So I'm Claudia, and Andrea is on the screen as well. We're both professional engineers, PNGs from APEGA in Alberta, and we're both EDI leaders, equity, diversity, and inclusion leaders. The title of our presentation is How We Got a Fair Pay Increase, 2 case studies. Andrea's going to go first. She's doing the government case study. She works for the government, and I'm doing the private sector. So that's how we're going to go. Please take notes. There is a lot of knowledge to be had from the experiences of other people. You might think that it's only your problem. No. It's everybody's problem. We are at a disadvantage sometimes if our parents never taught us how to negotiate. So please help me welcome Andrea Marciales.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I'm so thrilled to participate on West 2025. So I will start. If you want to go through the next slide of how this happened. Well, thank you for the introduction. Claudia, I'm also running some of technical stuff for West and supporting West. So I'm on my side thing is marketing for engineers and websites and stuff like that. So now you know, but for the people that don't know. And I cannot see the screen here very well, but I agree that to negotiate your salary, I get one of the things that I learned the hard way is that as an engineer and in general in life, you don't get what you deserve sometimes, you get what you negotiate. And that's why learning how to negotiate is critical for success and career advancement if you want to move forward. And also sharing my ideas with Claudia, when we were having this discussion, we learned a lot of things that they don't tell you when you start engineering. And being a woman, well, it's a critical factor for some areas, but I wouldn't say it's the only one, because learning how to negotiate your worth, what you think you're worth in terms of compensation, is a skill set that I would say is learned with time, right? And practice is like cooking. You negotiate with practice. So I'm going to tell you my story that I told Claudia, and I hope that you learn from my experience and don't make the same mistakes as me, especially if you're new in your career. Don't be afraid, just try it, and that's it. But I want to talk before I give my 2 cents. So first I was informed. So I make up this graph. Please don't quote me on this shape. We are engineers here, so I was just understanding at some point that I was severely underpaid. And I noticed that thanks to APEGA, and I appreciate APEGA, when they released the salary survey, I was like almost, I wouldn't say how I felt that day, but it was not fun to watch that, to learn the report. So I learned that I was undercompensated. And the other thing that I realized was at some point, there is a relationship between the value I bring to my work or the revenue contribution versus my compensation. And I call it a mystery graph because in reality, it depends on many different factors and many people evaluate that differently. But in a nutshell, if you are in your job, you can at some point understand that relationship, and it takes mastery, or it takes expertise, or it takes to look to your peers. But at the end of the day, the moment you recognize that there is some sort of a function like that, it helps you to understand what do you see on that graph. And I think that's the first thing that happened to me. So you can go to the next slide. When that happened, I went and talked to my supervisor, right? I was like, oh, maybe I'm making things in my head. But anyways, I'm just going to ask, because it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst can happen is they say, well, yes, no, and they gave you like a lot of vacation. But at the end of the day, I had an honest conversation with my supervisor, and I was struggling to get my PNH. I even did presentations in ways about the mistakes not to do when you get your PNH and you can wash it in the resources. But when I talked to him, he told me that I needed to get my PNH. So he proposed a deal. The deal was very simple and straightforward. You get your PNH, I don't have to stand for you. And when you get it, then we promote you. Like, it was very straightforward. So I use it to negotiate my salary increase. If you are in your PNH route, you can also do that too. And you can bring into the table that you're going to be less worrisome employee for your boss because they don't have to take responsibility for your work. And my supervisor was very happy the day I stamped my first report because it's like, finally, I'm free of this. I shared the story many times, and I'm pretty sure he's very happy if he's watching me. He's like, yeah, I'm still happy that I don't have to worry about your job. But anyways, I got my PNH, and then I got my promotion. But then it came, okay, how much is the promotion and the salary negotiation thing? So the reason I come, you can go through the next slide. The reason I'm talking about a promotion is because I'm a government employee. And if you're not aware, in public, like government industry, you have unions and you have non-unionized jobs or positions. Mine is non-unionized, which means that I cannot get a salary increase easily unless it's mandated by the government. And those salary increase by government, you can go and read, is about 3% or 4% maximum per year, and that's like a stretch. And based on all this curve, they offer the best way or the last resource to go through it was promotion. And then they were saying, okay, we're going to promote you. Congratulations. You're going to become a senior here. I was like, well, yes, but with the compensation you provide me, no, sorry, but no thanks. And then it became like a balancing act, what Claudia was talking in the first slide. And I proposed them, okay, I'm not going to get through such a responsibility level for this compensation you want. And at some point, I'll tell you, I have to just say, if you don't accept my terms, I simply stay in my role, but you decrease my responsibility level. So that's why I put in the plot, like the mystery portion and knowing where I was, that was critical. And it was straight conversation between like my boss and then the HR department and then his supervisor. And my boss was very supportive, don't get me wrong. But the companies have different layers of bureaucracy. So at some point it reached like HR was saying, no, it's your supervisor division that doesn't. And then supervisor was like, no, it's HR that doesn't approve. So at some point I have to like get very strong about my courage and say, okay, I'm going to sit you on the table and you're going to tell me in front of each other who is not giving me this or what is the problem. And at some point then I got it. I got to the point I wanted. And that's why I'm here presenting, because I was telling that story, and it takes courage, and it took a lot of effort because I'm not comfortable a lot with negotiation. And I think a lot of people are not. But I was thinking, well, if you really want me to stay, if you really want me not to look for another job as soon as I get a chance and jump ship, offer me something that makes meaningful for me to come to work, and I'm not going to run away at the first opportunity. If you really think it's valuable what I do here and it's fair, just offer something that makes sense. And that, I think, was the point that made them pull the plunge into the agreement. So that's my story. I think that's what it is. Hopefully you can go through Claudia, but in my experience, I'll say just courage and asking. Worst can happen is they say no. And if they say no, well, you decide something else. But in my case, that went through. And then you have my results in the next slide. So it's funny because as my supervisor really recognized my work, and now they're talking about promoting me themselves. Like, I'm not even bringing that to the table. And I was like, okay, well, we talk about that. So it's in a different level of discussion now, and let's see what happens. But they are like, well, as a next level engineer role, you should do this. You're like, we're getting on that, and let's see. But it helped a lot to have the understanding of the value I bring to my job, to be sure on this. That's it. That's my story. Hopefully you learned something from it, and please don't be afraid to ask.
Thank you so much, Andrea. So before I switch to the second case study, Make sure you put your questions on the chat and we'll ask them at the end, both questions on Andrea's presentation and questions on my presentation. So please add questions for Andrea's. I'm going to show you the graph again in case you have questions about the graph. Salary is a function of contribution, which is the same as Harriet's first rule. Pay is based on the job, not on the education or the training. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Andrea. My salary raise story is for private industry. So I wasn't working for the government. And I also use a salary survey from APEGA, which is not posted on the website anymore. And you have to understand, companies nowadays have to be very careful with the information they put online, especially because of the Competition Act. The Competition Act was recently rolled out by the government. It made companies have to remove some files from their websites because it seemed like unfair practices. So please be understanding. So my case, I also discovered, or I felt first, that there was an issue with my pay. So I started looking around. So first, that's the first thing you do. You don't say anything just yet. You look around and see what is happening in your environment. I had 2 maternity leaves, and you leave the office for a year. Now it's longer, but back then it was a year each. So you really feel like you're not on top of things. People forget you. You change departments when you come back sometimes. So I was feeling like I was being left behind. Pay raises, promotions, interesting projects, everything. So I realized I had to ask. No more waiting. I was very patient waiting, and I finally discovered that no one is going to come. No one is going to come. You have to save yourself. And this applies not just to women at work, but men. Some of my friends are not the typical alpha males. So it's hard for them too, because the system requires that you negotiate and speak up. And if that's not your style, then your salary is obvious. Like, it's obviously a gap between you and the rest of the office. So I realized no more waiting. No one is going to come. That photo, by the way, is the group of ladies that were organizing the CC West conference back in 2018 in Edmonton. So that association, that company that we want you to switch over, first now is West, Women Engineering Summit. Now we want you to go to CC West, Canadian Coalition of Women in Engineering, Science, Technology, and Trades. So we won an award for hosting this massive CC West conference in Edmonton. So, and actually there's 2 of us from that picture in the room right now. So, hey, Madeline. She's next to me with the shawl, the red shawl. Second, I think I did, now that I felt that I was falling behind, I found proof of what my feelings were, what my thoughts were. So thank you, APEGA, Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscience of Alberta, for sharing the annual APEGA salary survey. Is no longer on the website because of that Competition Act I told you the government rolled out. So back then, I had the data for, was the year, see if I remember, 2012. That's when I asked for my raise. I found the data. This is the table from 2000 and, what year is this? It might be 14. I don't remember. No, this is 24. So without the negotiation that I had not done it after every maternity leave, I found the data, I read the numbers, and I found that I deserve more money for the level of responsibility that I had. That's what those P numbers are on the chart. P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, M1. So P is technical level, M is management. M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5. And based on the size of the company, sometimes the salary can be calculated. So I had the data. Now I had all these papers and all these calculations. My feelings were confirmed. So the next step is to write the speech. I prepared the speech. I had to write a speech because there was no way that I could convey all this awesome information without having an organized structure. So I wrote a speech. So I have to thank Toastmasters International. We had a Toastmasters club for public speaking in our company. So our company had paid for everybody's membership because if you're a good communicator, that's better for business. So we had a Toastmasters club in our company. Thank you, Toastmasters, for teaching public speaking to everyone. So I grabbed the data and I literally wrote a one page is about 400 words, one page with all the details of my request. I had probably 7 drafts of that speech and I delivered it to my boss. And I just waited for what he was going to say. Because all my bosses have been men, is a fact. All the benefits I've had from my engineering career come from men, actually. Men were my mentors, men were my coaches, men were my promoters, my sponsors. Men gave me promotions, they gave me projects. So it's definitely a team effort. We definitely are a team in success at work. So I delivered that speech in his office, and I was very calm on the outside, but on the inside, I was freaking out. So you can fake it. Yes, you can. So the speech outcome, my boss listened to the speech, and then he did something I didn't expect. He apologized. And you're almost thinking, oh my God, this apology is for all the women in the world. He was not aware that I had a pay gap. And it happens all the time. That is why nobody comes. Nobody will come because nobody knows that you are in a pay gap situation that's ridiculous. So he said yes to my entire request. Everything was a yes, 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 yes. Now, the salary delta is the difference between two values, was so high that accounting had made me wait 2 years. The delta was so high that legally, financial rules made it impossible for him to give me that raise in 1 year. He broke the delta in half and half. Year 1 fell under the financial rules, and then year 2 fell under the financial rules. So I was able to get a salary raise without a change in position, no promotion, just the money part, after 2 years. And then I continued managing big projects and fighting to keep my part-time status. I was the only part-time engineer in a company of 5,000 people. Imagine that, a corporation of 5,000 people. I was the only part-time engineer, which is ridiculous because we had a published policy. So thanks to that raise, I was able to compete for a management position later. Why? Because if your pay, I hope you're writing this down, if your pay is way lower than the bars, like that range of salary, if your salary is too much in the low end, when you want to jump to the next level, you can't. Because the pay gap is so large, a promotion looks almost illegal. So you have to fight to stay in the middle of your range or closer to the end, the more years you spend on that position. So that when you jump to the next level, which to me was management, your salary is not that far behind. So it was a protection for a future ask to get a promotion to management. So the lessons learned, by the way, those are my tanks. The picture you saw before, that's my favorite project in pipelines. Not the pipelines themselves, the tanks, because I'm a civil engineer. I love structures and steel. So the lessons learned. First, you have to look around. Please look around. You have to pay attention to what's happening in the office. Who's getting the projects? Who's getting the promotions? And find out if you are at least at par with the people that are doing the same work as you, people that have the same experience level as you. So make sure that you look around and get your bearings. Number 2, or B, is to find proof. We don't have the APEGA survey for salaries posted anymore on the website, but you can find the salary survey somewhere else. You can find salary surveys for Alberta government. It doesn't have to be APEGA. There's surveys everywhere. There's surveys for North America too. You can check out the data from another country. So until engineering, and I'm including all the STEM jobs in here, Until engineering has labor unions and we have collective agreements, or it is illegal to pay a woman less than a man for the same job, we have to negotiate. We have to. It's a fact that you have to do it. The system is set up for this. So follow the system rules. That picture of me is in Colombia. I was in Colombia recently. That was one of my favorite hotels in Barranquilla, where Shakira is from. I love that photo. Yeah. So to summarize Andrea's and my presentation, you have to recognize your value. You have to take courses if courses are required. The courses may not be on engineering or geoscience. They may be on negotiation. You need to learn how people do it. This is not a mystery. It's not a secret. There's a way to do it. You have to follow the rules. You have to do some research on what the company is paying other people that have the same level as you. Maybe HR will give you data on the ranges of salary if you don't already have a copy of it. That's normal information, the salary ranges. Then you have to write a speech with this research that you gather. How to write a speech. The shorter, the better. 400 words is all you need. That's a one-pager. Why? Because people's attentions are based on how much information they're absorbing. So one pager is easier to absorb than 4 pages or 40 pages. So just make sure that it's only a one pager. Practice with your mentor how to give this speech or this request to your boss, and then go for it. Worst thing that can happen is they say, no, not right now. They always say there's no money in the budget, or they say, ask me again next year. They all say all kinds of things, but you have the data. You say, no, I'm behind from before. I'm not behind from this year, I'm behind from before. So make sure that you go for it. So now I hope you have questions for us. If you have a question for Claudia, make sure that this is a question for Claudia. You just put it on the chat. If it's a question for Andrea, make sure that you put that on as well. So, Andrea, any closing comments before we start taking questions?
No, I think it was, I read, you had a book, and I read the book, and it hit me. So I'm 100% with you on the bar thing. And this is something you don't realize because it's compounding over time, right? The longer you wait for it, the worse it becomes because it's more challenging to...
The gap gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so here's the first question. This is from Kathleen Knox. What do you do when your company tells you that your salary is confidential and not to discuss it with anyone? How do you then find out if you're in a pay gap situation? You start, Andrea.
Well, they say that your salary is confidential and not to discuss it with anyone. I think, do they mean anyone inside the organization? That's a law, right? I don't know. Lawyers go through loopholes right now. But no kidding. I'll say you find out with similar people in the industry. Engineering is really nice in the sense that careers like they don't hire you to be a chemical engineer or mechanical engineer. They hire you to be process engineer or integrity engineer, right? Or controls engineer. So pretty much your role could be standardized in industry. So you can ask in industry peers. You can go for, now there are websites that talk about salary pay grades that you can also consult. You can also, there are organizations. I'll give you an example. Corrosion. So in corrosion, there's AMPP, and in MPP events, there is a lot of people. So you can contact your peers and ask them an approximate range. So that's what I would do if I were in those shoes.
All right. Next question. How do you know if you're at the same level as your peers if that information is not shared, not even arranged inside the company? Can I ask HR? No problem. So I'll take that one because it's similar to the previous question. You have to have a network. You have mentors. You don't have to tell the office that Joe told you the salary that he makes. People tell each other information all the time. And the information is not really confidential. It's even your tax return. It's in your tax. You can show them your tax return if that's what that needs to be done. Tax return has nothing to do with the company. So don't show them a paycheck. Maybe that's not the one you should be showing. But there's information everywhere. This is not, and especially when you find allies. Allies are people from another gender who support your plight. So if you can find allies in your network, Adriana, you can actually ask for what the salary is supposed to be. Also, job websites, monster.com, indeed.ca, all of those websites have an average of salaries because they do their own survey. They do. Perfect. Next question is Rianne. Is there an optimal time of year to start discussing a raise? Is it better to do it towards the end of the year or the end of a quarter? So you start, Andrea.
Well, there are multiple times that are optimal, not just this ones. I'll tell you from my experience, right? One is when industry is hot. If you see that there is a big project coming and they're hiring everywhere, that's a good time. The reason is because people like they don't tell you that, right? But companies, when they hire people, they spend about 2 years training them, and they have to make the returns on investment. So they don't want to lose you because they know that they have to invest again in just not hiring but training someone. So you're costly just by leaving. So that's one way that you can negotiate. The second one is, I'll say, after the end of the performance review, of course, you have to meet your goals or expect them. So surpass them, surpass expectations. That would be ideal. Or when you demonstrate that your value is like way higher than what you are expected to perform to, like to your level. I would say that's a best way. In terms of timing, yes, you can do it after your performance review, but I would say consistently performing, you can pretty much discuss it with your boss. That's my take on that.
Perfect. No, I like that. The next question is from Adriana. When getting the PNG, do we get an automatic progression? How do you discuss the pay increase when having a progression or promotion? So I'll take that one. Depends on the company. Some companies is an automatic raise when you become a PNG or a PGO, professional geoscientist. So ask, is this a mandatory thing? Like, do I get a raise immediately when I become a PNG? And some companies, it is. It is. If the company does not have an automatic raise, then that is your speech. I just got my PNG. APEGA has 77,000 members, and 57,000 of those are licensed. So I need one. I need a promotion or a raise because now I have the ability to do more things for you. Remember, Andrea, you were saying about stamping drawings? Yeah. In my world, I didn't have to stamp anything, but you bet that they asked if I was a PNG because we have to do an oath of honor and ethics, right? So they want you to have that promise to the regulator. So having the PNG was good, even if you don't have to stamp drawings. But you have to ask. I mean, is that definitely a good point to ask because you have a valid reason, a good argument. Okay, the next one. Does APEGA not have any rules regarding pay, or is that not related to them? So I'll do that one because I'm a volunteer with APEGA. Does APEGA not have any rules regarding pay, or is that not related to them? So APEGA is a regulator. They are supposed to enforce the previous name, Engineers and Geoscience Professions Act. Now it's a PGA or PGO Act. They are supposed to uphold the law on practicing engineering and practicing geoscience. Their job is not to be a business association, to argue for pay increases, to argue for even equity and diversity and inclusion. Their job is to uphold the Engineers and Geoscience Professions Act. If you have a claim regarding pay or a claim regarding gender abuse, then you have to use the Human Rights Commission. One of the acts of the Human Rights Commission is that you're not supposed to be mistreated or attacked, right? So that's a whole different set of rules, and APEGA does not do that. In terms of pay, APEGA knows that there's problems, and all the regulators in Canada are part of the same organization called Engineers Canada. They understand that pay is a problem out there because engineers are undercutting each other, geoscientists are undercutting each other on salaries. So they have guidelines. So if you put that question out there, is guidelines. We have guidelines on how pay is supposed to be made, but there's no numbers. It just talks about looking at the engineer's education and experience in terms of contracting. So it's not even for employees; it's for making deals between owners and engineering companies. Next question: for those of us that work in small companies, less than 50 people, that does not have a dedicated HR department, how do you suggest we go about doing the research without having it become public? So, Andrea, you should take that one.
Okay, well, this is interesting. I don't know how many small business owners are here, but as a project manager, you kind of know, from an engineer perspective, right? You kind of know how much is your manpower cost and how much is your overhead cost. And you can figure out backwards the math about like how much is your real or fair pay, right? I'll tell you in a practice, if you go on Google, usually businesses are taking 30% profit of their sales. So you can go backwards and multiply that. Another thing is that you can ask with your peers outside the company very discreetly or Googling in websites, but without going too much into this, probably by costing projects or having an idea of how much is other people's salary or how much is the worth of the work you do, like how much is the cost of that versus how much you receive, and make it a proportion. That's what I would do.
Perfect.
Claudia, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you got it. Yeah. Next question. Are companies allowed to implement a policy that makes sharing your salary with coworkers or people outside of the organization not allowed? That's an interesting one because we're not lawyers. Yeah. But if the company has a written policy and you sign the contract to work for them, that's considered confidentiality agreements, right? So you sign the contract to get that paycheck, you have to follow it. Yeah. Yeah. Any more questions on the chat? Okay, there's one. How do you justify working part-time if you're busy in engineering? You never worked part-time, right, Andrea? Okay. So I was in my second year of engineering work. I had graduated from my bachelor degree. Then I immediately did a master's. So I went to work after the bachelor and master's. And I already had a child. So my first child was born in the middle of third year of engineering. I do not recommend that. You're overwhelmed with school and now you're going to have a baby. So when I started working, I was already planning how to manage this life with a child and a husband. And it was hard. Like I immediately felt that it was a bit different because we are put through the ringer in the first 2 years of engineering because we have to learn so much. Then my daughter was born. My second child was born. And now I started doing the math. See, engineering is good for this. I started doing the math on how much time I had every week, how much percentage of it was given to each kid and the husband and the work and volunteer work. I'm a big fan of volunteering work. It gives you things that the pay doesn't give you. So I did my own time budget table, and it was impossible to be able to have a good experience in all fields. I needed to cut something. So I cut some volunteer work, and I did not get a dog because the dog is like another child. And I had a leftover, or not leftover, but a short. So I said, I have to work part-time. So I went to my boss and I said, I would like to work part-time. And he looked at me, he goes, what do you mean part-time? Because part-time is different levels. And I go, I would like to have at least Thursday afternoons off. For those of you who are parents in Canada, a lot of schools let out early on Thursdays. So there's no school in the afternoon of Thursdays every week. So I said, can I at least get Thursday afternoon off? That way I could go pick up my children, and then go home. And he said yes. Remember, another he said yes. He asked me to write a whole memo. I had the speech, but I didn't have a memo, official memo. So I wrote an email, special email. And he put that through HR, and HR pushed it through because all they needed was his yes. The company already had a policy for part time. So they said yes because, see, HR cannot say no. If the boss wants it, HR does it if it falls under the company policies, right? So that's why salaries are your boss's decision. Promotions are your boss's decision because the policy is already there for increasing salaries and promotions and changing your status from full-time to part-time. So HR came back and said, we can give you 80% because afternoon of Thursday is only like 15%. So they wanted just a whole day, a whole 8-hour day gone from the calendar, which was even better for me. I'm like, yes, you want to give me more time off? Yeah. And of course, my salary got cut by 20% because it's 5 days. You take away one, they pay you only 80% of your salary. But I had no choice. I mean, I had to do it. My quality of life was suffering from having all these things, this overload of things. I was not willing to give up a child, and I was not willing to give up volunteer work. And I did not want to quit my job, which a lot of people do actually. They quit their job and they come back 7 years later. I just wanted it all. But why can't I have it all? I just need to work 80% of the schedule. So I did. Yeah. And I had to fight for it for the next 12 years. Every year, every boss I had said, are you going to switch to full-time? And I go, nope. I'm very happy. I had 3 kids by then, so never mind. I wanted even more time off. A question on the chat. Kathleen, part-time doesn't have to mean 50%. I know people who work 30 hours, 37.5 hours, 80%. Correct. Kathleen, I mean, I was in private, so it was 40 hours plus. Yeah. So I love the government. The government has, I think it's 32 hours, no, 37 hours. It's beautiful. Yeah. Amanda, Claudia, when you went to 4 days a week, how did you not still end up with 5+ days of workload? Amanda, I have news for you. Yeah. Most of the work we do in the office is not actual work. Yeah. There's a lot of corporate things that fill in your schedule that if they're not mandatory, why do you have to do it? So I actually became a very efficient person in terms of how to spend my time in the office. I only needed Thursday afternoon off. So Thursday afternoon is 4 hours plus the lunch hour. So I just needed that afternoon. And I had to do it. So there's not a lot of lunches to hang out. Team building once a year was mandatory. The 2 a year, maybe not. Volunteering for the safety committee, maybe not. It's not mandatory. Volunteering for any committee in the office, especially as they make us do social stuff, not an option. I was very efficient, and you realize how much email takes away from your time, email reading. So that's how I did it. Yeah. Anonymous question. Previously, I requested a salary increase since my salary falls in 30% of the company's salary range for my level of experience. Oh, so 30% gap. My boss said she did not have money in her budget for a salary increase. How do you manage the situation? Andrea.
Okay, well, this is a tough one. The first one is, can you drop the 30%? But obviously, you don't want to go backwards, right? But if you can drop 30% of your responsibility levels and not to have too much work to make it easier, or negotiate some other perks like Claudia was saying, part-time or more vacation days or some other things like that are not necessarily financial, but or probably come with a solution if you can. I don't know what the level of experience you have, but To say, okay, what would it take for you to have the 30% budget? Like that's the type of person I am. Like my supervisor cannot come with those questions to me because I'm like, okay, so what should I do then to help you? Because we have to make it happen. You have no for an answer. Like if you want me to solve problems, you have to show me how you solve problems, and this is a problem that we have to resolve. That's it. But I don't know your conditions, so but that's what I would do.
Perfect. I'll add to that one. Of course, they don't have money. It's the mandatory response. I don't have money for that. So now you are making a 2-year plan. So you say, oh, we don't have money this year. Okay, how about next year? How about if I bring more business into the office? Can I see some evidence that we don't have the money? So it's important that all of this is considered because it's probably true or it's probably a lie. And because you don't know, you're going to have to prepare for that. Say, okay, perfect. So not this year, next year. And then you bring, like Andrea did, a picture of a printouts of the contribution that you made in the office. If this is not valuable to you, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, yeah. When there's no money in the budget, it doesn't mean there's no money in the budget for raises. There's 2 salary buckets usually, one for projects and one for administration. So they're saying no, maybe the project's budget or the other one. So find out which one they mean and say, okay, fine, the next year. This is my salary gap. We need to solve this problem. This is not fair. And I'm bringing all this business, or I will bring the business to you in the next year to make that change. Do you want me to get a PH? Is that the requirement, like they did for Andrea? Is that the requirement? Do I have to get a PH title? Whatever you need to do, so they don't have excuses, because maybe the excuse is valid, and because you don't know, you have to fight. Maybe that department is not a department for you. That specific manager or specific supervisor does not understand the situation, and no matter how many times you explain it, they don't get it. So maybe that's the one department you have to change. Don't change the company. Don't go quitting the company. Just change departments or change managers. We do this all the time. We chase the good managers, and we go from department to department wherever our manager goes. It's we don't quit companies, we quit managers. Actually, that's actually what the rule is. Yeah. Any other questions on the chat? We have like 2 minutes. I'll have one for Andrea if nobody has one on the chat. Okay, so Andrea, what's the next step now? Because you said you're still in future discussions. What's the next?
Oh my God, that's a different question. I want a different career path. So probably you know about this. Like I want to be a full-time entrepreneur. So let's see. That's my future goal. But and it's really good because I can do a lot of things, and I think different than a lot of employee mindset. So let's see what future holds. But that's my dream, right? So
yeah. Somebody in the chat, is it okay to change careers? I'm guessing it's for salary change. So do you think, Andrea, that your next career is going to give you the money that you want, that your current career is not giving you, or that's not a decision factor?
No, you know what? I learned a lot of things that are not related to engineering. So I'll say it's okay to change careers as long as you're happy with it. Not just because of money. I wouldn't say money shouldn't be a driver, because you can get the money but still not be satisfied. Right? Money solves a lot of problems. People say can buy happiness, but no, like I wouldn't say don't go for that. Don't fall into that. Careers if you are passionate about it and complement it with your engineering degree. I think being an engineer puts a lot of steps ahead to make that transition. Yeah.
Yeah. For my case, I did change careers dramatically. I went from being a pipeline engineer to being a university professor, and the change came with a price change, a salary change. Why? Because you're not in oil and gas anymore. Oil and gas, those salaries are bloated. They're huge because the job is so hard. And then I switched to teaching, and these are public organizations, almost like government. So the pay immediately changes. But we need the high pay when we're young, when we're acquiring the car and the house and the hobby farm and the hobbies and all these things, the older you get, it's you already have savings. So it's important to consider that maybe you need to sacrifice yourself now when you're young, and then later when you have all that money already saved and you have your things set up and organized, then what you need now is the loving job, the job that you really love. Older people say that all the time. I don't need money now. I need time. So hopefully that's it. So thank you, Andrea, for a beautiful presentation.
Thank you, Claudia.
No, it was amazing. I'm glad that you share that experience, because people need it. People really need that experience. Both of our experiences. Yeah. Okay, I have some baskets, but I just wanted to remind you, you need to have a party on June 23. June 23 every year is International Women in Engineering Day. I don't know if they have an International Women in Geoscience Day. I don't know. But they have one for engineering. So on 23 of June, you should have some cake that day. Maybe not a rainbow cake, although you should have a rainbow cake. Just celebrate, especially because this is our last year. Wes has been running very successfully for 8 years. So celebrate in our name. We are going to switch to now CC West. We're going to be supporting CC West from now on. They have our mission, but a bigger one. And their conferences are huge. They're beautiful. So we're just going to keep continuing the work. It's just through CC West. Baskets 5 and 6 before we go on our next break. So there's going to be networking. Some of you may need to get food. So just do whatever you need to do. And the winners are, we have Catherine Lam Tram and Mary Stewart Torrey. Congratulations, Catherine and Mary. I will make sure that your baskets get to you. I'm so happy the watch parties are happening, actually. I have done watch parties for Oilers games, hockey games, and it's fun to at least watch it on the screen with 10,000 other people. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're having a watch party and you get to talk about us. You get to criticize us in your party. That's awesome. Yeah. All right. Please, I think we have the feedback poll. We have some minutes for you to look at this screen. Please share your feedback on our very last West event. We might share that feedback with CC West so that they know how to make conferences even better in the future. And that is it. If I can ask the technical team to put this on the chat, this menti.com and code, that would be great.
Thanks, Claudia. I also wanted to take a minute to thank Claudia for being our MC this morning. I think she's done a fantastic job keeping everyone moving, giving us great intros and making sure everyone's got the links that they want in the chat. I just want to give everyone a reminder that we are transitioning over to our afternoon link. So the link is in the general chat. It is also in the multiple invitation emails you got. This session itself will close in 10 minutes and we'll kick you out. So we look forward to seeing you for the afternoon session, which will begin with an hour of networking.